Hello and welcome to Move the Line Prop Drop Show. I'm Ryan Noonan back for Super Wild Card Weekend to talk about the best way and the most profitable way to bet on NFL football. And that's player props. Live here, 2 p.m. Eastern every Friday, all the way through the Super Bowl, giving you our favorite props and taking your questions. So if you are hanging out with us now live on YouTube, we appreciate it. Subscribe so you don't miss a show. Smash that like button and jump in the chat. Let us know what your favorite look is for the Wild Card Weekend. Very different show than the last couple of weeks where we were talking pre-show. We just had a lot of guesses, likes, things that we were speculating coming into the market. And it's been a pretty fruitful week so far. They got into some of the markets pretty early, and not everything's out there, but a lot is out there. And hopefully we can give you some a lot of plays this week. So joining me here as always, fresh off of, have you gone to identify your car yet? Because Connor, Allen, they found your car.
I know it's breaking news. The people are waiting on the edge of their seats, about this whole fiasco. For those who don't know, my car was stolen last week, and I thought it was not going to be lost forever. I get a letter in the mail today from the Pound. I did not get a call from the police, from the Pound saying, hey, we have your car. I call them. I'm like, hey, is my car there? Like, why didn't the police call me? Are they doing their jobs? Essentially not. They just towed it, put it there and said, whatever. They've had it for like a week. I never even knew. So I got this letter in the mail, like literally snail mail alerted me that my car was there. So now it's a whole disaster because I got to get the insurance to go out there and like check it, because who knows what happened in the actual car. I don't even want to look at it. So the good news is, as I told you on the other show, my golf clubs are in there. So now they gave me some money to buy new ones, which is much, much needed considering I was playing with actual woods for wood.
Not a lie, Pat. Connor is playing with just literally woods, and it's been a super tough scene. And that was the exciting part of the car getting stolen. It was like, all right, we're going to parlay this into actually Connor upgrading his equipment and getting out there a little bit more. But obviously here as well, in the spot is always the man from the Mayo Media Network, Pat Mayo Experience. It's Pat Mayo.
Hi. I have one prop I really like this week, which means it's going to lose.
That's how it always works. But yeah, full slate here. So really, really excited about all that we can get into. Connor reference real quick, so just so you know, 2 episodes to Move the Line each week, both here on YouTube, both in podcast form. Game previews on Wednesday night. Connor, John Daigle, and myself around 7:30 Eastern every Wednesday. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you get notifications for that, along with all the other great 4for4 YouTube content. Still rolling into underdog drafts, the FFPC stuff, covering other sports there as well. And that actually lets you know the great time too. $19 for a betting subscription at 4for4 from now through the end of February. So you're not getting a lot, right? It's typically $240 for the full season. You're just getting a little taste, but $19 gets you access to everything on the site, the Discord, which again, that is more than $19 per week in my opinion. But we're still covering MMA, college hoops, NBA. If you're in any of the pick'em sites, we have specific channels and posted plays there as well. We're still covering DFS. John Daigle, TJ Hernandez providing all the DFS content in there as well. So again, $19, 4for4.com/plans to check it out again through the end of February. All right, gentlemen, live lines, things that people can tail while they watch and hang out. Again, if you're hanging out, get in the chat. Connor, you can get us started. First play, Super Wild Card Weekend.
Yeah, first play, I'm going to roll with Evan Ingram under 4.5 receptions. You can play this up to -130. She's gone under this number in the majority of games this season already, but now runs into the Chargers. He only had 1 catch on 3 targets last time to them, and that was with Trevor Lawrence throwing the ball 39 times. I think this is because safety Derwin James is capable of shutting down some of the best weapons, or at least kind of slowing them down when he wants to. Only 3 tight ends have gone over 4 receptions all season against the Chargers. That was Travis Kelce and David Njoku. They held George Kittle to 1 reception, Evan Ingram himself, Kyle Pitts, if that counts, to 2 receptions. On top of all this, I expect the Jaguars to skew a bit run heavier given the matchup and have a little bit less overall play volume against this Chargers team than they did last time, where they had just insane play volume because the Chargers couldn't sustain any drives. So I do expect a little bit less volume, a little bit more run heavy. And just less overall volume to a guy like Ingram. So give me the under on his 4.5 receptions.
Pat, where are you at on that passing game?
I don't know. And that's been the Jags offense is the hardest thing for me to figure out this week. how do I want to attack it? I want to attack it with one over somewhere and a bunch of unders. And it really does seem like, and I know that the quality of opposition that they've played over the past month and a half hasn't been very good at the quarterback position. The Chargers defense has just markedly improved over the past 2 months from where it was when these two teams played back in week 3. It's way better since it was in week 10. Once they started to get all of their guys back, they can generate pressure again. As Connor mentioned, Derwin James is back and kind of take out any tight end. The issue with Ingram in this spot is Derwin James going to be the one who's on him? Like, he's essentially a slot receiver. He's not really a tight end. Like, maybe he's used to, I don't know, maybe to try to shut down the run, because that's the one part of the Chargers offense that hasn't improved is their rushing defense. Their pass defense through the roof. ETN should be able to run all over them. So I like the under of 4.5. That's a big number to get to in a playoff game. The only issue I would have is if Bosa is 100%. And this pass rush is really good. We know that the offensive line of the Jags is pretty banged up. The sustained pressure from the Chargers should be able to get through. Does that just lead everyone to a lot of underneath routes, which to my mind is, I mean, you can say Christian Kirk. I don't believe that to be so much the case. That's more Zay Jones, Evan Ingram in my mind. So that would be my one hesitation on the Ingram under.
I think we see a lot of underneath routes on both sides in this game, especially now with the Mike Williams news. But yeah, actually, again, my brain is broken. I watch football very differently than I did, say, 3 months ago. Derwin James doesn't do that often. It would be matchup specific. He basically is like a third linebacker oftentimes. So they can do that with him. They will do that with him against the likes of a Travis Kelce is very specific matchup, because that's kind of someone that you game plan to shut down. But again, like to Pat's point, the secondary the defense in general is markedly improved. So I think finding unders here makes a lot of sense. And I think Evan Ingram is a good spot too. I like the price. And so, yeah, I didn't tail, but I like the play. I could see it getting there. How about you, Pat? What's the first one for you?
Number one for me, a prop which has hit in 8 of 9 games so far this season.
Is this the one?
Irwin.
Is this the one that you really like that's going to go under? Or
yeah.
It's going to miss? Okay.
Trenton Irwin over 5.5 receiving yards. Doesn't that seem way too low?
It does.
I have really no more color to it than that. Than if he catches a pass, we're there.
I'm surprised he's even lined, to be honest.
He is. I mean, in the past, hell, 3 of the. Let's just see. I said he's covered this number in 8 of 9 games so far this season, and if he doesn't play, then it's a push, so who cares? I mean, sometimes he only sees one target. His worst game of the year was against the Bucs, 1 catch for 5 yards. That would be devastating in this spot. But outside of that, 1 for 12 last week, 3 for 45 the week before that, 2 for 58 the week before that. They just keep basically everything they wanted to do with Hayden Hurst. I know that Hayden Hurst was injured over this time, but he was back last week. That he just runs like this seam route down the middle, or they use him at the sticks. Those are the 2 routes that he runs. He's going to get his 2 to 3 targets. He catches 1, you win the bet. So I'm in.
Yeah, you've seen some fluctuation in route participation of late, but again, like we've seen 24%, 47%, 22%. So again, like he's not going to be out there a ton, but he's out there. It's like, it's just the only player you're going to watch when he's out there. It's like, throw it to him now, because it's probably limited snaps. But I think these are where some of the edges are still. It's been a harder year for traditional props. Connor and I have talked about this a lot offline. It's been sharper. I still think when you find some of these edges, and we've done it a lot here in the show, and Pat's done it a ton with like crappy tight ends.
Yeah, Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas, Juwan Johnson. Like, there's been a slew of them all year. They're posted at like 11.5. Like, just make a catch and you're good. Yeah.
Whereas like the lines are so much sharper on like the elite players. They're more like the volume bet into those players is sharper too, so that books can even manipulate and fix lines to be better as the week progresses. So I still think that your best edge is still in these kind of like off-market guys. Connor, any Irwin takes here?
Yeah, he's one of those guys who you look up every game and you're like, oh yeah, he caught another pass. It's just like one of those things, like once or twice a game, you're like, oh, it makes sense, So yeah, 5.5. It's a good number there. We had a question who plays for the Bengals. So if curious there, can always Google them. We do get a lot of questions on which teams players play for, and I always find that pretty funny. But hey, I get it.
Yeah, I get in the habit of just posting, even if it's Josh Allen. I put the team abbreviation next to to it just to be safe, because you never know. People just want to bet.
Can I throw one out here? Because I haven't seen it. Maybe you guys have, because I'm just looking at DraftKings Sportsbook in 365 and I don't see it there. Do you see any receiving prop numbers on Ray McLeod?
Ooh, I think we did. Let me see.
He's on Prize Picks.
Yeah, he's half a yard.
Yeah, I like the over, by the way.
Yeah, half a yard, -105 DraftKings, +100 on MGM.
Yeah, and past 5 games, I mean, that's without Debo out, so his route participation would be a little bit higher with Debo out of the lineup. But, he's had at least double digits in 4 of his past 5 games. And the one he didn't was the Washington game. He had 1 target, didn't catch it. That was the end of it. I mean, that's happened a bunch of times this year. It happened against Washington. It happened against Arizona. It happened against Atlanta. Other than that, he's been over this number in almost every game this season. 3 games this season, he hasn't been over that number.
I love this just complete ancillary pieces. Way to start the show. Over on a half a yard for a receiver to start. Just absolute fire, Pat.
I'm putting in my Prize Picks now. Ray McLeod over 0.5 yards, wherever the hell that is, more, and get some Trenton Irwin in my life. They offer that one. Oh yeah, 5.5 yards. There we go. 200 to win 600. Let's have it.
Love it.
James is asking in the chat, where can we play some of these prop bets? We're talking about all the domestics. You can't talk about offshores. Maybe you have access to offshores, or whatever, PPHs that you like. We also can talk about, you might see some of these if you're in a non-legal states, California, Texas, wherever else you could be, that these might be on Prize Picks, or they might be on Vivid, or Underdog, whatever you want to do. If you need links for that too, you can hit us up in the chat. We can get you links to get started on those sites as well. The pickup sites, you got to parlay them. That's kind of the piece that they have there. Yeah, that's the rub. But that's okay. That you can still make EV decisions, and sometimes you'll have a number that's on a book -150, and the same line is hung over at Prize Picks. So it kind of will, I think, alleviate some of that a little bit.
Yeah, and they consistently post bad lines. I posted it last week. We had a massive win. They were posting.
Thank you.
Did you bet that?
Yeah, I saw you tweet it. I was like, oh fuck yeah, let's go.
Hell yeah.
You got to sweat the Kirk Cousins one a little bit. Kirk Cousins made you work a little bit for that one, because he almost went over in the first half.
Yeah. I played the foreplay with it. I won $4,000, or I won $4,500, I think.
Let's go. Yeah, no problem. It was actually Paulson messaged me and was like, wow, I don't really think the Vikings are going to play much. He used his free entry on it. I'm like, Paulson, this is hammer time, bro. This is they're not going to play. They might play a little bit the first half, but these lines are set it's a full game. So even if you lose, this is a plus EV bet. You make this bet 10 out of 10 times. But anyways, point is, Prize Picks listed Vikings players. No domestic had it. No one else had it. So those were great unders. They consistently post stuff that's nowhere else, and they post stuff early. So a lot of stuff to take advantage of there, even if you're getting a little bit hacked with the price.
I will say Ray McLeod +105. I'm gonna step on your first one, Noonan, just because I found it right now.
Oh, you're good.
Ray McLeod will be my second play, over 5 yards, +105 on Bet365.
Love it. Yeah, I think the juice piece too. I find that a lot in the way that, so the tackle market's a little bit different, because the bands of which a tackle number can fall within is a little bit more compressed. So you'll see lines open at -150 at times, because obviously it's just the narrow outcomes. But you can go and get that same number at a pick'em site, and it's sometimes I'll choose to not actually bet that one outright, because I don't want to lay the wood, and I'll just add it to a Prize Picks bet or something like that. So there's different ways to go about it. And all right, first one for me is still available. Posted it the other day for subscribers at 4 for 4. It's up a little bit. Josh Allen, I'm still going to take it, 50.5 rushing yards. I think basically across the board still available. Varying juice, but still like the play. Checks a lot of boxes. We see a spike in rushing yards for quarterbacks during the playoffs. That's been kind of a narrative that Connor and I have talked about for the 5 years we've been doing this together. And actually our own TJ Hernandez, who does our DFS stuff, did some work on this last season. 28 quarterbacks dating back to 2000 that average at least 30 yards per game in the regular season. So these guys are naturally already predisposed to running a little bit. Those 28 quarterbacks average 6.5 more yards per game during the playoffs. So thesis is pretty simple. Games that matter more, you get an athletic quarterback who already runs a little bit more. They're more apt to extend plays and drives, and just get out of the pocket. And we see a ton of design runs for Josh Allen. Anyway, his attempt number here is like juiced at like 8.5, even 9.5 in some spots. So we're getting 9 carries from Josh Allen here. Feel really good about 50 yards. And then also Miami is checks the other boxes that we've liked this season on rushing quarterbacks. High man-to-man rate, and they blitz a ton. They are 7th in man-to-man rate. They are 2nd in blitz rate. They blitzed 55% of Josh Allen's dropbacks in week 16. It's an insane rate. They must have thought there was an edge there, very different than what they did in week 3, even though they are a high blitz rate team. And Miami's allowed the 2nd most quarterback rushing yards in the league this season, only trailing the Lions. So we've seen this in Josh Allen's short career. He's gone over 54 yards in 5 of 6 playoff games in his career, 92, 86. Even if this game gets out of hand, I think there's enough design runs. I still think Miami tries to bring pressure. Allen, ducks out. And I think he taught this in one run last time they played in week 16. So Josh Allen over 50.5 rushing yards. Connor, are you with me?
I like it. My only concern is that Skylar Thompson is so bad. Yeah. I think he can still get there in the first half. I'm just like worried that he gets does really well in the first half and they hand the ball off 30 times or whatever. But I mean,
they never do that though.
I know
they never, ever do
a little bit more this year though than
for
previous years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. It's just like, I just have like PTSD from watching Skylar Thompson enough that I'm worried that they're not going to be able to move the ball at all. And so that's my only concern. But otherwise, every other thing says it's a fantastic play. And I think it's a good look.
Pat, any thoughts to the quarterback rushing narrative?
I had it with you. I was looking at him and Daniel Jones and Tyler Huntley. So There we go.
Yeah, I think Geno's another one in that. Geno probably falls under the threshold of quarterbacks that average 30 rushing yards. Actually, want to ask TJ maybe an off-season project for him to kind of maybe lower the bar of average rushing yards per game and see kind of where that falls into play. I think Geno's probably right around 15, 16. That's pretty much where he's lined every week. I think that could be a spot for him too. All right, Connor, back to you, number 2.
Yeah, my second one is going to be Elijah Mitchell overs. This is looking at 39.5 at this point. I absolutely love it. Niners right now, 9.5, 10-point favorites against the Seahawks. Going to be a ton of rain. Seahawks run defense has just been getting wrecked as of late. And in terms of Mitchell versus CMC, I think there's some concern like, Mitchell won't even play until it's a blowout or anything like that. I don't think that's really true. I mean, the 4 games we've seen with Christian McCaffrey, he's outrushed him in every single one. And he's outcarried him in the first 2, then came off injured reserve last week and was outcarried 15-5 and did not play at all once the game was a blowout. It was Jordan Mason who came in. So I think he's a pretty heavy part of their initial game plan. It'll obviously be Christian McCaffrey starting. You might be able to get a better number live, but I still think here in this spot, like Elijah Mitchell has shown enough explosiveness in a great matchup. Like I could see him easily getting 10 plus carries in this spot, like we've seen before. So I think that you can not only play the over 39.5 rushing yards, but I played a bunch of same game parlays with, Mitchell 60 plus, Mitchell, even 70 plus and a touchdown, stuff like that on MGM is available. And you're able to get like plus 500, plus 600 on those. Sam C's bringing up that the rain might not happen. I mean, I don't even really care that much about the rain. I mean, that's just a throw in that, maybe they'll skew even more run heavy, but I do expect the Niners just to come out and run the ball a ton against this Seattle defense.
Love it. I took it too. Pat, any thoughts on this running game?
I'm in.
Let's go.
There's so many reasons that it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. So, unless the Seahawks get frisky here, which I don't think they would do until late. So I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how to really describe to the subscribers, like how deep you need to be in on this, but I think it's a really good play. Like, whether it's alts, whether it's same game parlays, I just think that maybe add an extra half unit, sprinkling on some upside outcomes of, 50 plus or 60 plus at this point. Cause I mean, there's plenty of chances here where he rips a big one or he gets like 10 to 15 carries. At that point, he doesn't even need a big one. He can get there anyway. So
let me try to build this out. Just, I always like this exercise, and the fact that I've been doing it live on the show, I think I've won 2 of the 3 weeks doing it, building out these same game parlays, which is always a lot of.
It's good juju.
Let's see. Yeah. Over 50 rushing yards is plus 175. So let's take that. And what else can we go to? Attempts. They're not offering him for attempts, so that's no longer good. Receiving props, I'm going to check my guy Ray McLeod onto there. If you go
throw him on there,
Ray McLeod over half a yard receiving and Elijah Mitchell 50 or more rushing yards is plus 450.
Ooh, yeah. See, that's already nice and fat. That's like, I mean,
and when I get greedy and add Colby Parkinson to it, we're good to go.
That's awesome. I think he's live for a touchdown. I don't normally bet anytime touchdown props, but that might be on there too. That's a fun one. But again, it's a little bit more plus 280 for an anytime touchdown. Wow, it seems aggressive.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad look. It was right around that last week too. It was I thought like
50 yards and a touchdown for Elijah Mitchell only is plus 525. If we add in Ray McLeod, hold on, I got to scroll here.
So I'm going to play. If you just go just pure yardage, 50 yards over a half yard, and Parkinson over 18.5, it's 10-1.
Ooh, I like that.
And then once we keep that and reuse those selections, and then we add the anytime touchdown to it, I bet you it pays like 25-1 or something like that. That would be my guess. Where's stupid anytime touchdown at? Touchdown score. Elijah Mitchell. Anytime. Maybe. What about 25-1? Even better.
Ooh.
Getting spicy out there now.
Getting spicy.
Oh, a free 20 bet credit? Let's have it.
I love that. It's awesome.
And then I can parlay that same game parlay with one that I want to play with like Trenton Irwin and whoo.
We're to the moon.
Now.
All it takes is one play. You'll be live literally the whole game because all you're betting on these guys is like a one play thing. So you'll never be dead literally until the end of the game.
And they'll go over 4. That's
Maybe.
How it works.
Yeah, probably. But it's okay.
A couple of these, he pays for the I want to ask you, he pays for those cryogenic freezer visits I saw that you took.
You saw it. Have you been to a cryo chamber?
I have not.
Yesterday was my first day in a cryo chamber.
How was that?
Well, I've probably said this a million times, but I tore my calf not too long ago. So I've torn it twice in the past 2.5 years, all from running outside. So now I just don't run outside anymore. I run on a treadmill. Either way, it really caused like an imbalance in both my legs. So like my right glute became really, really weak, and it's led to like hip flexor, like just my general inactivity because I sit down at a desk all day. It shortened my hip flexors and just really made an imbalance on my right hip. So my right hip has just been really sore. And with the amount of golf that I played last year for the first time in like 20 years, that it just really took it hurts when I wake up in the morning. And so I've been working on that, like rehabbing it, doing every sort of like exercise stretch, and it's getting better and it's getting stronger. I went to the cryo thing yesterday and it's just like gone.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Like it essentially zaps every bit of inflammation out of your body.
That's pretty
cool.
Cool.
Big fan of she's kind of a weirdo. It's Dave Asprey. He's the bulletproof coffee guy. If you've ever heard of bulletproof coffee, people think of it as like putting butter in your coffee. It's not actually just putting like butter in your coffee. There's a lot of other pieces to it, but he's just kind of like a life hack guy. And I saw him at a work event years ago and read a couple of Asprey's books. And he's been like really big on like the cold shower thing for years. I know that's like taken off, and like these same things where you jump in the cold and blast all that stuff and all the good benefits. So yeah, I'm definitely open to those life hacks, especially as we get older and things start to decay. Even if we are moving, it just doesn't happen like it used to. So
yeah, no, 100%. Like the big thing about it is like I don't like cold showers. I don't like.
Oh, it's a miserable experience.
Polar bear plunges, like it sucks. This is 3 minutes and you don't get wet.
Yeah, you can sell me on that for sure.
Yeah, that's way better. The polar plunge stuff is crazy. I've done one of those before, and I got offered to do another one this year, and I was like, absolutely not. I was like, I'll rather just donate the money, like whatever, like I'll pay the money and not do the plunge. That's fine.
Yeah, the cold shower thing is great. I think from a health benefit standpoint, you just gotta like progressively, just kind of slowly at the end of your shower, dip it down a little bit, and just see how long you can stand and do a little bit more the next time. And I think that there are health benefits to it as well. I went on a golf trip last March. I'm going again this March. I went to hit balls like 2 weeks before, because obviously I live in Chicago. I can't golf through the winter. I was embarrassingly sore after hitting a bucket of balls after just taking a couple months off. I was still sore on the flight to Myrtle Beach to Hilton Head, and I can't let that happen. So I'm trying to find ways to get ahead of it because I'm not going to go and show up to a golf trip and be sore before it even starts. Because I'm old and it sucks. So I'm open.
I think I just heard my child fall down. I have to go check on him. I will be back in 30 seconds.
Yes, do that.
Priorities for sure.
My child's been making many appearances on shows of late, so I understand that. A lot of composure there for Pat, considering his child might be just laying on the floor when he turns the corner. So
Pat's a pro's pro, so makes sense.
All right, he already gave us his second anyway, so he is fine to be skipped. He gave us the Ray McLeod play as an official play. Love Pat leaning into this just off-brand 10% snap receiver niche that he seems to have found here. So I'm going to double dip here since we got time. I'm going to give you 2 tackles from the same team because some of it, the analysis is the same. And these numbers are – you just should take these. Again, the MGM if you can, because the MGM numbers are off market for 2 Baltimore Ravens. We'll start first with Marcus Williams, safety for the Ravens. He is available on MGM right now at -110. I just moved from -105. Still an absolute hammer play. Over 4.5 tackles and assists for Marcus Williams. One of the best safeties in the league. It was a great acquisition for them. He got hurt actually in the Week 5 matchup against Cincinnati. Hurt his wrist, was out for 2 months. It's come back and he's healthy. We're a few weeks in. And again, I think a wrist injury impacts too. When you first come back, you're probably a little reluctant. He had like a slow game, but then has been just kind of taken off. Last time they played last week, week 18, 7 tackles in that game. He's top 4.5 in 7 of the 9 games that he's played in full the season. He has games of 12, 10. So he has a ceiling. If you actually happen to play on Bet365 where Pat does, Marcus Williams is a outstanding ladder opportunity because he does have ceiling. And the matchup is terrific too. Play volume on the Bengals side is really nice. I have conservative play volume here for Marcus Williams, and I have him about 6.5 tackles, a little shy of 6.5. So 4.5 at -105 on MGM, a great line. Again, it's a little bit different out there in Caesars. I think DraftKings is falling back a little bit too. Favorable scorekeeper matchup for the Ravens here. Visitors are averaging 26.2 assists per game in Cincinnati this season. That's 10.5 more than the home team, 4.5 more than league average. So that actually is pretty sticky at this time of the year. We've had 9 home games. This is like a rolling 3-year average as well. So like this is not just kind of a blimp. This is a thing for some reason. They don't want to give the visiting team credit for a full tackle, and dudes just get assists. So again, I have a pretty conservative number in snaps here, and I like Williams. I'm going to go with this teammate too. I'm going to give you the double dip. Roquan Smith, over 9.5 tackles and assists. Same scorekeeper data. The other edge here is opposing linebackers at the team level are averaging 23.4 tackles and assists per game against the Bengals, 3rd highest mark in the league. Again, they run a ton of plays, and they actually run some low ADOT stuff too. And we saw last week they played this same team, 16 tackles for Roquan Smith. He has 11 or more in 4 of the past 6 games, playing really good football. And also the ability here for potential negative game script here. That's going to help. It's just, maybe a higher run rate in the second half. Opposing linebacker who's on the field for every snap. 9.5 is a high number, but again, Roquan can do this. He's one of the best in the league. So MGM is +100 on this, which is way off market. Like Rivers, Caesars, DK, they're all kind of in that like 130 to 150 range. So MGM is off market here on your 2 Ravens. So those are 2 for me that fills in for Pat. Is your son okay?
He's fine.
Okay.
And you saying that gives me a perfect same game parlay piece with Trenton Irwin.
See, I don't think they let you get tackles in there.
Yeah, I just played it.
Oh, did they? Oh, that's new. That's new. They have not. I've tried to do this multiple times.
So that is Marcus Williams over 4.5 tackles and assists. Trenton Irwin over 5.5 yards. Maybe he can tackle him on Trenton Irwin's catch. That would be great.
I can't even tell you how amazing that is.
That pays plus 260.
You got to add Roquan Smith in there too.
No, I didn't. I'm not getting greedy with that. I just have these 2 same game parlays that I then parlayed together. So Williams and Irwin with Ray and Elijah Mitchell, just as standard over 38.5. That pays 13-1. And then I can reuse that and go to, am I up again? Because I have my 3rd one.
No, it's back to Connor. But I like where you're
Okay,
going.
I'll
No,
say
keep rolling. Are you okay? Okay, you want to save it? I mean, you can keep rolling. I feel like you're building some good stuff right now. The listeners are
go back to
probably
Connor. We'll go out of order. You're good. Go for it.
it's Tony Pollard rushing yards
Hmm.
over 47.5. Like, what are we doing here?
I like it.
Like, I have him projected at 89.
wow.
How many
Yeah, I mean,
carries?
Carries for Mr. Tony Pollard. What do we got here? Rushing yards for Tony Pollard. Most on the slate. Second most on the slate. Second most on the slate behind Barkley. 16 for 85.
Oh. Love it.
47.5. It's the same as Zeke's.
I like your conviction. That's a big number. Former Chicago or future Chicago Bear, Tony Pollard. Putting that out there in the ether. Lean into
Chicago Bear.
Yeah.
You think?
Just gonna lean into that run game. Yeah, I think it's save money. Like they need to just get a dynamic back. Montgomery's gone. It's not gonna have to spend as much as you do on Saquon or something like that. They just become like a better version of the Falcons or Ravens without a good defense.
They're gonna draft Bijan Robinson 101.
Oh man, can you imagine?
I am really excited to watch how they mess it up because so far I have not been a fan of most of Poles' moves so far, especially the Chase Claypool one was brutal. Trading away Roquan made sense from like a cap standpoint where you had to pay him. I mean, now he's the highest paid linebacker in the league or one of them. So it's I mean, I get definitely not paying him that, but I mean they have no good players, so we'll see what happens.
I legit think I've spent $700 since I've come on the show.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to bet some real bad football players this weekend now because of you. But I respect it. I like this angle. I like just this niche stuff.
1,
all right,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. It's like $970 so far. So I need to hit a few of these, or we're toast.
Let's hit someone. All right, Pat. That was 3 for Pat. We'll go back to you, Connor. 3rd for you.
My 3rd one here, I like Kenneth Walker under 60.5 rushing yards. Really, my only concern here is volume. But the last time these teams met in week 15 in San Francisco, Walker's line closed below 50 yards. It was like 49.5. He wound up with 47 rushing yards on 12 carries. I think the current line, which is at 60, is kind of being impacted by recency bias. 2 big games in wins over the Jets, the Rams. Then they played against the Chiefs, middling run defense. Niners, much different beast. Second in run defense DVOA, allowing 3.29 yards per carry to opposing running backs. And in the 4 losses the Seahawks have had this year, Kenneth Walker has 10 carries for 17 yards, 14 carries for 26 yards, 12 carries for 47 against the Niners, as I mentioned. And then the massive game against the Chiefs where the Seahawks decided to give him the ball 26 times despite losing, the majority of the game. So I think this match was kind of nearly identical to their previous game. I think even more risk of a blowout, though, with Debo healthy, with Elijah Mitchell back. Spreads 10 points. So, I mean, I think Walker needs 20 carries to get here. If he doesn't get 20 carries, he's probably not going to get there. So I think with blowout concerns, the under is a solid look.
Bad news for Pat. We're about to build another same game parlay because now we have Ray McLeod. We've got
I have done better this year. Like I agree with Connor on the assessment and I agree with him on the play. And generally, I mean, everything I've taken so far is an over, which means it can't win. So I don't like betting unders against guys like this because I see the spot. I see how it all logically makes sense. And, Kenneth Walker busted a run for 55 yards. It's like, oh, great. Here we go. There's a few players in the league that just I don't like betting unders against because they can get there in one shot. And he's one of them.
This is Daigle's handicap as well, Connor, right? Basically,
yep.
He's a one-play guy where he can blow it up even though you can basically get 1.5 yards per carry for the rest of the carries. He's got that potential. So
yeah, he's in that like Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb zone.
Yeah, they're hard unders. Yeah, I get it though. Like to Connor's point, if you feel like you have an edge in like long term, you have to make that bet. You can't make that bet in a vacuum. You have to think long term. Do I feel like I'm on the right side? Do I think the process is right? Because otherwise, you never pull the trigger on some of these things because you can always talk yourself out of it. So yeah, there definitely are outs for sure, but I think you got the right number because it moved pretty significantly as soon as you fired at it. So
yeah, you're seeing some 59s now on the board. I think we got 63 originally, but yes, I think 60 is still fine. But yeah, definitely that's the risk. You'll be holding your breath literally the entire game.
Oh, now see, I made a critical error here, Noonan. I was basing all my bets off the fact that I was currently inside the top 5 in the giant $5 in golf, and now I'm not, so I don't have any money left. Can I borrow some?
Here's the good news. It's only Friday. So
That's
you
true.
got 2 more rounds.
And I need Hideki to make the cut, so I need him to start playing a little bit better.
Let's go, Hideki. All right. So you don't want a same game parlay with Connor's Kenneth Walker. I'm going to give you a tackle because now we can do this. We're going to go in the same game there with Cody Barton over 8.5 tackles and assists. This is like minus 120, minus 130 out there. Pretty readily available. Caesars, Rivers, DraftKings, MGM. Great spot for linebackers against the Niners. They're averaging a league high 23.5 tackles and assists per game. Again, these are teams that play each other a lot. We have 2 games this season. Barton at the time was not an every down player. He was basically playing like 83% of the snaps in those 2 games. Still, even as a part-time player, 11 and 10 tackles in the 2 games against the Niners. Their main primary linebacker, Jordan Brooks, tore his ACL and a couple other ligaments 2 weeks ago. So now Barton is an every down linebacker, played 100% of the snaps last week. So now we have his playing time going up as well. And then also scorekeeper wise, favorable for the visitors in San Francisco as well. Visitors seeing 4.2 more assists per game than league average. Similar to the Roquan Smith situation, we have pretty likely negative game script in the second half, which probably leads to a ton of rushing. Again, you want to tie this into Elijah Mitchell. I think that those correlate pretty well here. Cody Barton over 8.5 tackles and assists.
Minus 115 at Bet365.
There you go. Yeah. So again, like when you get a little bit higher up there, 365 is again, they have this ladder opportunity where you can do alts. You can't do that in any other books. It's a little bit harder when you get into the bigger numbers because you can't ladder as high because you're already at 8.5. But man, you got a guy like a Marcus Williams who's flashed 10, 12 tackle upside. When he's lined at 4.5, you can start to get into like, I think he's like, I saw at 9 tackles, he's like 15-1. I mean, that's
who was it?
Marcus Williams, who we did earlier.
Oh yeah. Like if you want to get on Cody Barton, you can do 10 or more at plus 150. That doesn't seem great.
No, it's great. So good spot. Again, 11 and 10 in the matchup, and the every down stuff I think is a nice spike. So I think he's 10th in the league in tackles on the year too. So pretty good. All right, we are through 3 each. It's actually even more. We got a little bit more in there for you. But if you're hanging out in the chat, jump in. Let us know something that you want us to talk about at the end. We'll get to as many as we can. And Connor, back to you, number 4.
Yeah, my last one, one that we just bet before the show. I like Richie James over 49.5 receiving yards. The number's high. I get it. But since week 13, Richie James played a much bigger role in the Giants offense, 79% snap rate or higher every single game. During those 4 games, he has 61, 42, 90, and 76 receiving yards, averaging 8 targets per game. He had his best game of the season, actually, last time against Minnesota, catching 9 of 11 targets for 90 receiving yards. I expect the Giants probably have to throw a good bit here. So the matchup's good. He's been used a ton. And I think the Giants are kind of live here in this game. So, I don't know. I think the over here at 49.5, while it seems high for a guy like Richie James, is a pretty solid look considering all the other factors.
Yeah, Shannon Sullivan is the slot corner for Minnesota. He has been destroyed this season. When you look at some of the PFF stuff with him in coverage, especially with him in coverage in the slot, it is highest yards per snap. He's seeing a ton of receptions per target, targets per snap, all that stuff. Like he is a very, very popular target for the opposition when he's covering the slot receiver. So I like that James play. I thought about it. I almost wrote it up yesterday. What do you like more? It's plus money for over 4.5 receptions. It's not a low threshold, 5 catches. And again, you referenced 8 last time. I think he had 8 the game before too. He's been prominently involved. I don't know. Because he is kind of a low ADOT guy too. I know he went for 8 for 90, but what are your thoughts? Did you consider that? Because
I did, yeah. So I was going to bet that, but then it went from like plus 115, plus 120 to like even money. Okay. And so then I was kind of like, meh. I feel like the yards kind of gives you more outs if the game gets, if you're only sitting at 3 receptions and you're at like, 35 yards, like, I'd probably rather at that point have the yardage because I feel like he's just capable to break that in one play against a Minnesota secondary. Like you said, the most yards per, whatever yards per target allowed from that slot corner. So Yeah, I like plus 115, plus 120. I was really into it, but I don't see that anymore. Maybe there's one shop left with it, but most of the time it looked like it was like closer to even at this point.
Yeah, DraftKings, or it looks like, MGM's plus 100, FanDuel plus 102 would be your best Richie James number. Otherwise, it has moved. Caesars out to minus 123, minus 110 at a lot of other spots. So yeah, I like both of them, to be honest. So I think just getting some Richie James on the card, I think makes sense. However you feel is the best way to do it. All right, Pat, empty the clip. Number 4, any other thoughts? What else again, we don't need many thoughts since mostly everything's readily available.
So Josh Palmer, 49.5, I think is a pretty decent look with Mike Williams now out for the Chargers, but I'm going to pass on that. And I'm going to go with what I've been saying, kind of throwing into same game parlay pieces. Cody Parkinson, 18.5 yards over. He just continues to eclipse this ever since Will Disley went down. I remember the very first week we were talking about this, and it's like, okay, Noah Fant, he's going to see this huge uptick. And like they had so many injuries at receiver. Then all of a sudden, it was like, who the hell is this Parkinson guy? Where did he come from? And he has just been very consistent, 47, 36, 45, each of the past 3 games when he started to see actual snap shares. Like Gino has some sort of connection with this guy. Maybe it's the long, goofy hair. I don't know. Or maybe it's like, this guy looks like he sucks. Let's not cover him. And he's wide open. So they throw it to him. Like there's all these different factors that can go into it. But whatever it might be, this number just seems oddly low for someone who beat this number in the first 4 of 5 games to start the year. And he ended it with 3 straight games beating this number. I like it a lot.
Yeah, his band broke up and he just decided to take up football.
He tried to do the Seattle grunge scene in the middle of the season when they had everyone healthy. He's like, well, you don't need me. And then when they called him back, the tour didn't go well. Half the band got COVID. They couldn't practice anymore. So he's back on the field. It's good news for our
He didn't realize the grunge thing stopped like 25 years ago. And he's like, wait a second, I might as well take up football. I'm pretty big.
Yeah, you're right. For a Stanford guy, you think he would have figured it out after like the 8 weeks, but here we are.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I'm looking at like the raw participation, like last 2 weeks, 78-58. Like when you're at 70 for tight end, like that's like the upper echelon guys. Like really, again, like Kelsey aside, like if you're 70%, and that's more than Fant, 58-66. So like they are running a lot of 2 tight end sets, and target share has been Parkinson over Fant since the increase as well. So even on limited snaps, a couple of weeks prior, he was seeing a pretty high target per route rate. So I think there's something to it. Again, this fits the brand of Pat for the show for sure today, is these nobodies who are going to get there on one catch. So I like it.
I love Colby Parkinson. He was a touchdown machine at Stanford. Like he was awesome. I actually had him I got roped into playing a college football fantasy league like a long time ago, like when he was in college, and he was like a stud. Like he was like my best player. And I don't think the rest of my team was very good because I didn't know 90% of the players, but I had him and he was a baller. So I'm in.
Boom.
Like it. Again, low threshold just takes maybe the one. So no problem with that. I have I'll give a couple. I have one that I played just before we went on, still out there, and it is way off market. It is a book we don't talk about often on the show. It is not representative of my sweatshirt today, but it is FanDuel. It is, again, way different than everywhere else. It is Chris Godwin over 6.5 receptions. It's minus 122. It's like places that still have 6.5 are out to like 150. Most places have moved to 7.5 at plus money. So again, this is FanDuel specific. It's Ben Brady's favorite target for sure. He's the only Bucs receiver with a target per route rate north of 20 to 24% of the season. Last week, he barely played and still had 6 catches on 7 targets, 50% target per route rate on like 40% of the snaps. Referencing the Shannon Sullivan stuff for Minnesota, their slot corner. This is why I have that tab open, because I was looking earlier. Deron Bland is the slot corner over the last couple of weeks for the Cowboys, and he has also been a very popular target for the opposition. And it makes sense. You want to stay away from Trayvon Diggs, out wide. His coverage snaps per target is the second highest in the league. His snaps per receiving rate, 6.6, second highest in the league. We got Brady in the spots. He's going to throw for, I don't know, projections. Basically, your number is like 42.5 passing attempts. He's going to drop back 45 times. Godwin's going to be heavily involved. The low ADOT stuff would make me want to go receptions over receiving yards. So yeah, 6.5 at minus 122 is still out there and a play that should be made. 6.5s are still out there now on Keenan Allen. That was a play early in the week. That's been steamed, obviously, since the Mike Williams news. When I was talking with Feinberg yesterday, and I was asking him kind of about the ancillary pieces on the Chargers. Who should we look at if Mike Williams is out? He talked about Donald Parham, and I would give shout out to John Daigle.
He's been talking about it for 3 weeks.
I know. Well, John Daigle backed it up. Did not talk to Feinberg. Does not know that I talked to Feinberg about the Parham thing, and Daigle pushed that out as a play for us just before we went out there too. Basically, an increased route rate, 10.5 yards. This is like a Mayo play. Maybe you're burned.
Parham, Parkinson, Ray, Trent Irwin.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to parlay all those. I mean, I will if you don't, because I need some skin in the game on the low threshold guys.
Yes,
I honest to God, I think you'd be better off just betting Parham anytime touchdown. Because if he's going to have a catch, it's probably going to be for a touchdown.
For sure. Yeah. And Jacksonville dead last in DVOA against tight ends on the season. So it's a pretty good matchup. So it just felt like a brand play. I'm sure you're probably just tired of Jeff talking about Donald Parham, emerging. We've been waiting for that for a handful of years. So that'd be it. There's a couple unders on the tackle side I want to touch on real quick. Again, 4for4.com/plans. You can get a betting sub, you get in our Discord. If I put these as official plays, you should probably tail them. I haven't bet these yet, but there's a few that make sense and that I like that are looking nice in projections that I haven't fired at. I want to get a Logan Wilson. He's a linebacker for the Bengals. A good number on under 9.5. It's like basically 8.5 plus money everywhere. It's just too high. I think he's topped it twice all season. The 2 times have been recent, so I think that's impacting the number here. And then really bad home scorekeeper situation for the Bengals. They don't give out assists. It's one of the lowest in the league. So if we can get a decent price on Logan Wilson under 9.5 tackles, I like that quite a bit. Another thing I want to play an under on someone on the Dolphins. Their playing time is so hard to nail down. They really don't have anyone that's like very predictable from a playing time standpoint. Elandon Roberts is one of their linebackers. His playing time is so hard to project. It is all over the map. But I looked, and the 2 times they've played the Bills this season, he's played under 50% of the snaps. So I think it's probably something scheme-wise where they just don't like him in this matchup. Maybe they want to go like heavier for like pass defense. He's like 5.5 at minus 120. I feel like that's too high. If he's playing 50% of the snaps, I haven't projected at this number, but I haven't projected for like 65% of the snaps. So I could be way off, and there might be some signal to this playing time versus the Bills thing. It's just 2 games. It's the problem. So you can't really play for the Patriots the last couple of years. I don't have a lot of data points on it, but that's another number. And then in the same game, Matt Milano, linebacker for the Bills, under 7.5, I think is a good look. I have him at 6. If I play around with the plays in that game, and he's still like 6.25. He's had some other good games recently, which I think is inflating the number. And the Bills don't offer a lot of assist as well. And so the only problem is like some of the matchup stuff is with Tua and not with Skylar Thompson. So I worry about how to really pull some of that Miami stuff forward. But those are 3 unders that are projecting really well for me that I haven't fired at, that I might just want to put those out there for more people if you want to consider. Maybe those are pretty good prize picks plays if you want to throw them in and build a 3-legger there on the underside. It won't kill any of our really strong overplays. So yeah, there you go. 4 each. We gave you 20 plays here today. So good stuff.
It's exciting to be back with the full. Remember, like weeks 2 and 3, it's like every prop is out on a Friday. This is great.
Easy. Yeah. Last couple of weeks, it was just a list of guys that I would love to see. Tackles that never came because they just wouldn't post any tackles. And then this week they put tackles out on Tuesday. I was not prepared. Trying to put finishing position bets in for the Sony Open, and I get alerts that tackles are coming. Projections weren't even done. So good place to be. All right. We're going to handle some questions that you have in the chat. Again, we'll hang out for a little bit. If you have some, let us know. And let's see where we're at. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Prop boys. Let's see. Sam's talking about liking the Mitchell play. Are you sure about the rain? He's talking about there might be some people saying that it might actually stop before game time. I don't think, Connor, I'll speak for you, that the handicap is tied to the rain, but again, it can't hurt.
Yeah, doesn't really matter that much. I mean, just adds to maybe the Niners run it a couple extra times if that's the case, but I don't imagine them deciding to go pass heavy with Brock Purdy here in his first playoff game ever. So I highly doubt that.
Yeah. Unpopulated. This is a tough scene for the Bears. 32nd pick overall for Chase Claypool in hindsight ends up being a pretty rough trade.
Who doesn't have their first pick?
Miami.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So technically it'll be the 33rd pick, but it'll be the 32nd selection. Yeah. That's pick 22, 21, 22. That gets
Did you hear did you see the quote from one of our chats, Noonan, that Chase Claypool hates Justin Fields?
No.
And that he doesn't, well, I mean, we already knew that he doesn't even know the playbook. And that's why he wasn't playing. And there was some rift in the locker room or something. And then someone literally just came out and said, yeah, he hates Justin Fields. So would not be surprised. Complete disaster of a trade so far.
Good times. Derek wants to know, better to take Richie James yards or plus 4.5 yards in a head-to-head with Darius Slayton?
I would not play any yardage props with Darius Slayton.
I think you're just inviting more variance with something like this. Guys kind of think that. Yeah, I would just go with the Richie James play, isolated. It's like a parlay that you don't get paid for anything, right? Because you're essentially betting on two separate things to happen. And then I think what Pat's maybe getting at too is Slayton is a big play guy. So like you can lose the Slayton side and have, again, a really good handicap. You could get significantly less volume than Richie James or Isaiah Hodgins and can get there on one or two catches because a lot of his ADOT stuff is just significantly further downfield. So I kind of agree there. Lucas wants to know, this is one I like here as well. TJ Hawkinson over 4.5 receptions. Dude has just been a monster since signing. Giants have really struggled against tight ends all season. He's very heavily involved. I think price is pretty normal. I don't think there's anything prohibitive here. Let me see where we're at on Hawkinson. Yeah, I mean, minus 115 on DraftKings, 105 on MGM. Pretty straight across the board. Connor, any thoughts on Hawkinson?
Their matchup here against the Giants are one of the worst at defending the tight end right now. Hawkinson already had, I believe it was like 10 for 100 or something like that last time around.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely went off, and that was despite the Vikings leading like the entire game or most of the game. So they still decided not to run the ball. They wanted to pass. So yeah, I think Hawkinson overs are very squarely in play, and we also know that they're going to be blitzing a ton. They didn't play as much man last time as you mentioned, but I think that the combo of Hawkinson and Jefferson has kind of been able to beat that like blitz man, combo that was basically the death of Kirk Cousins for the first 8 to 10 weeks before they got Hawkinson. Since then, he's actually been pretty solid against those combos. So that's what the Giants do a bunch of. I think the over is a good look. I haven't found anything overly compelling outside of his last results, though, to be like, oh, this is a great play. You know what I mean? Because I lean
have
over,
something
but
against it.
Oh, let's hear it.
Irv Smith.
You think he plays much?
I mean, he played 45% of the snaps last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like if he just and listen, I'm not saying like, oh man, Irv Smith's back. What about Hawkinson? Hawkinson's going to play, but if we can, and I know that the Vikings rested their starters, that's why Irv ended up playing so much. Johnny Muntz was above 40% last week for the Vikings too. But even if it just goes from a situation where, listen, they're not asking Irv to block. We know that.
Yeah.
So if Irv is on the field, like it's just something just on the edges to take away from Hawkinson, if you understand the point I'm trying to make here.
Yeah, it's probably, there's more outs for it failing with Irv being active than there were a couple weeks ago in the matchup that we're referencing where he went off against them. So
yeah, what if it's 3 targets and those come directly at the expense of Hawkinson? Then
sure,
it's not great, right?
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Good call. Hawk, I would still, it's not an underplay for me. I would still lean over, but I get, Pat poking a pretty good hole in that too. Lucas asking about Diggs over 6.5 receptions plus 210. I mean,
it's plus 110. He later corrected himself in the chat because plus 210 would be very
fire.
Nice.
Yeah. That's what I'm like, wait a second. We didn't have it starred here to talk about him. I'm like, wait a second. Yeah, I mean, I would think the hole in it would be just them not needing it. But again, like he's been really involved the last couple of weeks. There's been, I think, some squeaky wheel narrative around Diggs getting involved more. And that happened quite a bit the last week. I mean, even the first drive where we didn't see the full game, obviously, in the Cincinnati game. But yeah, he was peppered in that game too. All right, where are we at on Rayshon Jenkins tackles and assists? 6.5 on Prize Picks. I haven't projected right on that number. We were betting Rayshon Jenkins heavily at 4.5. The books have adjusted. 6.5 is a good number, though I did play his teammates, Foye Luakon, over 10.5. That got nuked, but 10.5 is still available on Prize Picks if you want to play Luakon, who I think he led the league in tackles again 2 years in a row. I think the Mike Williams news actually helps shorter ADOT, more Keenan Allen, more Austin Eckler working over the middle of the field. Luakon has been an absolute beast, 12.7 tackles per game over the last 7 weeks. Multiple 14, 15 tackle games. He's a stud.
For sure. Something that I like to do on this show because it's fun and I haven't gotten to do in a while. We have some breaking news mid-show. Tyler Huntley, full participant and will be the starter from my understanding. Gus Edwards clears concussion protocol, will also be playing. So 2 pretty big shifts there from what we were looking at on, I guess, a couple of days ago where we thought Anthony Brown was going to be the starter and that Gus Edwards is likely going to be out. So J.K. Dobbins props right now, 13.5 carries, 61 rushing yards. I think it's down to 59. I'm not sure I can still stomach the under, but I can see it. But with Huntley in, I feel like the Ravens have a little bit more life than with Anthony Brown. I don't know. Anything stand out there? Are you going to go to Andrews props? I mean, we thought were going to be money and they were not money when he came in.
He's been so bad. I mean, I think it probably helps them. Just, he's better than Anthony Brown, but he's not good and he has not been good. So it doesn't really change much of anything for me. I took a really fishy, big, chunky money line parlay with, the Bengals, Niners, and Bills this weekend. So I laid a lot, taking the juice, but I can't see those teams losing. So here we are. Fishy money line parlays.
Love it. And then we got Brian Sullivan chiming in here. Scout I know on Pitt says Claypool, biggest jerk / lazy. You know what? I don't even know if that's true or not, Brian, but I'm going to, because it's confirmation bias, I absolutely love it and appreciate the comment.
Question from Sam. Shout out Sam. Where was Pat able to same game parlay tackles? To 365 or were you somewhere else? 365?
Yep.
Son of a bitch, 365. It's just move to Indiana just to have access to 365.
Jersey?
Yeah.
It's a little further.
You'd rather move to Indiana than New Jersey?
It's just closer. And I wouldn't want to live in either of those states.
You're really interested in fucking your cousin or something like that?
It's a pretty popular Indiana.
It is. I believe it's the state bird of Indiana. Yeah.
I mean, I lived in Jersey. I like Jersey. So,
yeah. I don't know. I've been to Jersey a few times. Maybe I've been to the bad parts of the states. Not great, but you're closer to a big city. No, Atlantic City is trash though too.
Yeah, no one should ever go to Atlantic City. It's just my word of caution.
No,
I've never been. How is it?
It's horrible.
It's
really depressing.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's like Vegas, but if everything was geared towards the saddest people on earth.
Yeah. So you've been to the Horseshoe, right? In Indiana.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. So it's basically like the Horseshoe, but bigger. There's more of it.
We're getting some, the people are not happy in the chat about the, who's your name? New Jersey resident. I can back Indiana from Kyle. Sam C. Hey, I'm in Indiana. We do not fuck our cousins and definitely don't have 365. So
if I was really concerned about the opinion of people from Indiana, I'm guessing they wouldn't live in Indiana.
We're close. We're close to Indiana. I don't mind going to the Horseshoe.
Yeah, you guys live in fat Toronto.
Yeah, pretty much. You're just on the other side of the state border. It's rough.
Have you guys been to Toronto?
I have. I like Toronto.
It's set up exactly like Chicago. It looks like Chicago, except it's way cleaner and not everyone's super fat.
Correct. It's way cleaner. It's nice. Yeah, it's nice. The grid's very easy. Yeah, I love Toronto. Underrated city.
And I love Chicago. Don't get me wrong. I really like it. It's very familiar for me. Like, and you can fly from like they have the sister connection of the cool, like in the city airports. Like you can fly from the city airport in Toronto that's in the lake to Midway. And like, just, it's super easy.
Midway's a shithole too, though.
Yeah, but it's convenient to fly into.
Yeah,
For
you get
sure.
someone like, hey, they need a ride. Or they pick me up from the airport. And they're like, well, you're in
Or
Midway?
you can just like get a car from the airport, like some non-weirdo.
No,
Oh my
you know.
God. That's the one thing I boycott against is people are like, can you pick me up from the airport? I'm like, no, get a fucking Uber. Like, I'll pay for your Uber. I'm not going to drive an hour and a half for like 40 minutes each way, whatever, to go through traffic. And then also my friends and I beef about Midway versus O'Hare. I'm a big O'Hare proponent because they have just better everything there, except it's way more crowded. So that they say that Midway is a lot better. I don't know. It's Chicago beef, but it's a big deal,
Well, I just flying from those two cities in particular, like there's
Oh, yeah.
only one airline that flies to Midway from Toronto, and it's the Toronto City airline. So like that airport is
Oh, okay.
downtown Toronto. Like to get out to basically Pearson is like O'Hare. It's just a
Mhm.
giant international with like 9 terminals that it takes like an hour to get out there. Like I
Oh,
can
yeah.
take an Uber to the city airport in 10 minutes from my house. Where I don't live there.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. My wife's in-laws live basically a, I don't know, 3/4 pitching wedge away from one of the landing strips at O'Hare. Like literally, like it's one of the last couple of houses you see as you land. It is, you get used to it, but yeah, it's O'Hare for us.
They live in a place where I didn't even know people lived. Like they have a population of like 500 because it's like right by the airport and all these like insane shops and everything in Rosemont. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well, how far is O'Hare Airport from the Indiana state line? Like, could your cousin come pick you up?
Yeah, your cousin can come pick you up. Yeah, O'Hare's,
That's far, man. It's like an hour and a half.
Yeah, if you're coming from Indiana, you're going to Midway probably. You probably. Oh,
I'm
that's
dead.
good. Sam, Kyle, sorry. It's a good bit though, and you got to know it's not the first time you've heard that from out-of-staters. I'm sorry, guys. We didn't make any Gary jokes. No Gary Indiana jokes, which those are also low-hanging fruit.
No, those
so
are sad.
Yeah,
that's
that's
really sad. Yeah, everything you go into in Gary, Indiana, is got like a leave your gun in the car sign on the door. If you go to like a fast food drive-through, like there's no actual like things that pop open. You have to do it like the old school bank stuff because they don't want you to be able to like get access through it. You got to put your money into. It's like, yeah, it's not great. Not great in Gary, Indiana. So home of Michael Jackson though. Jackson 5. Shout out to Gary, Indiana. And the
man.
sewer plant or whatever else poison they have coming through the air of Gary, Indiana. So sorry, not a great show for Indiana. I apologize, but
Take that, Indiana. That's what you get for the Colts being trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gave us Larry Bird. I appreciate that. So that's really all I can do for you. So, all right, gentlemen, appreciate it as always. Pat, where can everyone find your stuff?
The Mayo Media Network on the YouTubes, the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast. If you search on Spotify or Stitcher or Apple Podcasts, for sure, it's definitely going to pop up. Just finished my DraftKings pick show for the Sunday slate and showdown slate on Monday with my guy Tambo. So we broke all of that down. And plus golf Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday, football Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday until the end of football. So then you're not going to see me for a while.
Good. Take a vacation.
Yeah.
Much earned, much deserved. Connor Props, where are you at? Are you feeling like your card's full, or are we going to fire some more stuff? Got a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm writing another SGP article for Bleacher Nation. I've been firing off some 20-1 same game parlays, right up my normal alley. Now the exact opposite, but I do think it's been forcing me to like dive even deeper into some of these trends. So the Richie James one is one that I ended up like kind of finding through that I was going to play regardless. Probably have one or two more. I get scared of taking unders in playoffs because it's just like do or die for these guys. Like some of these guys just become beasts, in the playoffs, which I know they're trying the whole year too, but there's like sometimes extra for some of these guys. So it is a little scary, but I'm going to stick with my brand, keep playing unders and just now at this point, ridiculous alt overs as well.
Love it. That's why I'm leaning over in the tackles anyway. I project typically lower plays per game anyway. I'm very conservative on the plays for the projections. Ooh. That way, if I'm lower on plays and it over pops in the projections, then I feel like it's an even better play, because then I still have, I think, a little bit of a range of outcomes up in terms of projected plays per game. So, all right, gentlemen, good stuff as always. Appreciate it. Again, 2 episodes per week. We appreciate it. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave a review on the audio podcast. Goes a long way in helping us out a ton too. And then 4 for 4 bets on the YouTube channel. We have unique content there, shorts, again, covering other sports, college hoops, NBA, MMA, all that stuff. So for Connor and Pat, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all next week. Good luck, everyone.
Yeah!